Okay.
Something which we've been working on for more than a decade now. As you rightly say, the UK tonight will become the first country to launch satellites from European soil, and that's been a long process involving a lot of folks, not just at Virgin, but throughout our space sector, which employs about 47,000 people. It's much bigger than most people realise. The other thing people possibly don't know is that more satellites are produced in the UK anywhere outside of California. So we're big into producing particularly the smaller and the nano satellites, the type that Virgin Orbit put into space. And so to see these 9 go up finally this evening, it's extremely exciting, and we're delighted to have backed this launch. And Cornwall could be one of 7 spaceports springing up throughout the UK. So we were excited to see this one and others developing.
And you mentioned some of the industry here in the UK. So how do you think this and future launches will really help propel the space ecosystem in the UK, including jobs? And what makes the UK such a great destination for launch and for space?
Been set.
Yeah, I mean, for a start, I think anything like a space launch just puts it front and center of people's minds. I was just watching the top of the 10 o'clock news here on the BBC, and I see they were giving this a mention and saying that the satellites are being launched right now. It brings people's attention to it. So if you're a youngster and you're watching this tonight, or you're catching up on it tomorrow, you'll be understanding that space launches are something that happen from the UK. I think that's incredibly important. It brings more people into the business. You asked the sensible question of why the UK. Well, it happens that particularly for the type of satellites which are increasingly getting launched, a lot of these smaller satellites, they've gone from about 1% of the market to 11%. And we think that over the next decade or so, there'll be huge opportunities, probably about £15 billion worth of launches of these smaller satellites. The UK happens to have the right location, in other words, geographically. We've got the right science with, 7 of the world's top 20 universities, and we've got the right industry combined with government to help all of those things stack up and ensure these launches can happen. And I know that from personal experience, because both in my current job as business secretary, but also my previous job as the transport secretary, I've tracked and worked on this launch. I've been down to Newquay in Cornwall. I actually brought over the rocket for the G7 last year to Cornwall. So we've had a lot of, to get these things going, you have to have a lot of different elements come together: regulatory, scientific, industry, government, all working in tandem, and that's the thing the UK's got going for it.
And we know that you have a strong love for science, and part of your platform is making Britain really a science superpower. How do you see space launch and this ecosystem developing in Cornwall contributing to that?
Well, look, it's hugely important to that. I was just looking across the kind of list of the payload tonight. There are a whole variety of different satellites. So you've got Amber 1, that's a satellite that's built in Glasgow. You've got Prometheus 2, that's a satellite built in Hampshire. You've got Space Forge satellite that's built in Cardiff. So you see, as I go around the country here, every part of the country, every part of the United Kingdom has got a link to what's going on in Cornwall tonight. And that's incredibly, incredibly important and exciting. But as I mentioned before, not to take anything away from Virgin Orbit, because you guys have got there first with this unique launch system that has so many benefits. But we have a number of vertical spaceports being built and being planned, so 7 in total. And I'm expecting to see vertical launch from Scotland, for example, possibly later this year or next year. So this is an exciting time. It's worth a lot of jobs, not just in Cornwall there, perhaps 250 or so, but actually across the country, in the thousands, in the tens of thousands, and making the UK a great place to do space.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the payloads on this mission, and there's some firsts. I mean, there's the first Welsh satellite, the first Omani satellite. So there's a real also international flavor in space. How important is it, one, for the UK to have its own launch and end-to-end sustainable space-based capability vis-a-vis other spacefaring nations? So as a nation leading in the space realm, And two, really international partnerships. I mean, I know that this is important for UK, you mentioned the other launchers, but clearly space is an international cooperative industry, and so working across country lines is equally important.
That is absolutely true. And just in the autumn, we signed a deal essentially with the European Space Agency. We put in, I think the figure springs to mind is over £1.8 billion. We've secured 3 more British astronauts. So we're working in the international sphere, so in Europe, but also with NASA and a whole variety, and have historically done so. Kind of interestingly, though, you ask a really interesting question, because the UK is the only country in the world to more than 50 years ago have designed, built and launched its own rockets and satellites successfully into space, and then scrapped the entire launch program. Now, this was 21. It's a long time ago now. It was kind of a surprising thing to do, given many other countries or other locations continued or have got into the space race since then. I think the big thing that's changed is the commercialization of space ever since, though, because I was just looking back. You only have to go back to 2019, and there are only about 500 satellites launched globally. But in 2021, so just a couple of years later, there were 1,900 satellites launched. So you can see this is a massively growing market, particularly these smaller nano satellites, some of which are no bigger than a shoebox, that the United Kingdom really has great speciality in, as well as some of the bigger ones, which we've always heard. So there's a big market, and we want to work globally. We want to do that, but we also think that we can grab probably as much as 30% of the launch market on these smaller satellites, which is something we're very keen to do.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the UK has all the pieces to the puzzle. You've got all the satellite manufacturers, you've got incredible universities, you have the logistics, and now you have the launch capability. So really, you have this end-to-end sustainable space applications mission capability that is unrivaled practically for the small satellite market in particular, and definitely joining the other few nations that actually have their own launch capabilities. So I think really that we're pleased to be your partner on this journey and help make that a reality.
It's great to hear you say that, because folks won't know, but we generate about £16.5 billion from space income each year in this country, and it's only set to grow. And we're going to work internationally to make that happen. And having this launch capability from British soil clearly puts us front and center of that.
Absolutely. And finally, I think so people know that you're a pilot yourself. So as you know, captive carry is happening. Our pilots are going on this journey, going forward. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience as a pilot. Just what's going through your mind? Like, what is your mental state right now, and how exciting is this for the people that are really on the front lines here of this launch?
Well, I obviously I offered Virgin Orbit the opportunity to use me as the pilot, and I'm just kidding. I think everyone who flies, everyone with a pilot's license knows that the thing that you're always doing before a flight is you going through the pre-flight checks in your mind, and then after that you go through the whole sequence of thinking through the flight. I visualize the flights that I take in advance, and I know that the captain will be doing exactly that. Incredibly experienced RAF pilot flying the aircraft this evening. He will have run through this, has done it, of course, in reality as well. So it's not just a sort of in principle thing. And that visualization, I always find as a pilot, really helps the process of flying. And of course, on a mission as important as this, I know that is the work that will have been going on in advance.
Yeah, and we're of course rooting for our pilots, we're rooting for our engineers, we're rooting for our team. I know the country is behind this mission. We're excited to be here in the UK. Grant, in the few seconds we have left, is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers maybe about this mission, or about some other insights, some parting words, if you will?
Well, look, when I came down to Newquay, and we brought over the rocket last year, actually it was a replica of the rocket last year, some people said to me at the time, this is all fine, but actually, is this just a static display? Is it really going to happen? Is it really going to happen from the UK? And, collectively, and you guys in particular have proved that the answer is definitively yes. The aircraft's in the sky, I think in, in 48 minutes or so, we're looking for the drop. So, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. And it's now thousands of people who've been involved in getting this mission up and running. There were any number of things which could have stopped it. And the first time you do something, particularly from somewhere new, there are lots of regulatory barriers to overcome. I actually want to express my thanks to my Irish counterpart, who I spoke to and helped clear the airspace, to the Portuguese, and many others who've been involved in this evening. But look, I think this is an amazingly exciting time. We're all eyes glued to the drop and the launch of these satellites, and well done to you folks for making this happen. And tonight, all eyes are on the United Kingdom launching these satellites.
All right, Secretary of State Grant Shapps, thank you so much again for your continued support. Thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to continuing the partnership.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. This is sometimes thought of as kind of the more quiet part of our mission. Obviously, we haven't dropped the rocket yet. When we light that candle, things are going to happen very, very quickly. For those that have been watching our GUI, you can see that all of our fuels are nominal. But one thing that we are watching, keeping a close eye on, is our payload adapter fairing temperature. During the climb, the aircraft right now is at, I believe, just over 30,000 feet, which is nominal. And during the climb, we were moving through the clouds in a storm cell. One thing we like to do during our captive carry is actually do a little fin wiggle to make sure that if there is any icing that occurs on the rocket during captive carry, we're able to break that away. We detected no icing during the captive carry up to this point, but we did that little execution anyway, and that all worked nominal. We are tracking nominally. I keep saying nominal, which is a good thing. We are tracking nominally on our flight path out towards the racetrack right now. We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I have a very special guest with us, Colonel Davis, who is the director of the Office of Space Launch at the NRO. And Colonel Davis is joining us here today on behalf of one of the payloads that is flying with the launch today. And so we're really excited to have you. Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for the opportunity. It's absolutely great to be here and play a small role in this truly historic launch.
So when you and your colleagues heard about, at the NRO, first heard about the possibility of launching out of the UK, what did you think?
Yeah, it was absolute excitement. Since the very existence of the NRO started over 60 years ago, we've really taken great pride in how innovative, how we like to advance the state of the art and the art of the possibility when it comes to operating in space. This was just really another one of those opportunities to do something brand new, to do something exciting, and that's all really truly in our DNA.
And so, of course, I mean, there are other launch sites, historic launch sites in the USA, like Cape Canaveral, Vandenberg. What do you see as the value of having additional launch sites, in particular out of the United States?
Yeah, anytime that we can go to any different launch site, any different launch capability, that adds diversity to the portfolio of launch solutions that we as the NRO launch providers are able to give our customer set. That enables them to be able to not hinder what they're doing with their technologies and really opens up the aperture for more advancement and more ability to do what we need to do in space.
And so do you see then there being potential advantage or value to geographical spread, particularly when you think about launching internationally?
Oh, no doubt. And that's just, again, the diversity that we're talking about. And anytime that we're not committed to any one or two launch sites, that just it enables us to do different things, to do better things from wherever we need to do.
Absolutely. And yeah, we agree. We think there's definitely different opportunities to provide access to different orbits and mission capabilities internationally. So moving to another topic, there's that phrase responsive launch, responsive space, and it's a pretty exciting term in the national security world in particular. What do those terms mean to you, and how is that important to your mission?
Yeah, responsive launch from my perspective is really being able to be responsive to my satellite customers' needs, to be able to deliver a launch solution when they need it, where they need it, how they need it, unconstrained. So having vertical launch, having horizontal launch, all of those things, add additional toolbox, adds to my toolkit
right.
that I can take to my customer set.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, launching on demand potentially would be a whole other benefit within a 24-hour period or so, which is something Virgin Orbit is trying to accomplish. So another question would be, a lot of what you and your NRO colleagues have talked about when discussing this mission in particular is the value of the partnership. I think the international partnership in particular with the UK RAF. With all that's going on in the world and in space right now, both in the areas of conflict and in times of peace, what do you see as the start of international partnerships and interoperability between the US, the UK, and potentially other partners? What are those benefits there?
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. The agility, partnership, and interoperability were the three big things for us with this mission. You talked about partnership and interoperability there. No doubt, if you look at the logo for this mission, it screams partnership. You've got NRO, U.S. Space Force, UK Space Agency, RAF. The list goes on and on and on, not to mention our industry partners. So yeah, partnership was a key part of this entire mission for us. And then, as launch folks, we like talking about the launch, but we don't exist unless we put capability on orbit.
Right.
And as the primary rideshare for this mission, we're here. I have a job to get capability on orbit, and with these primary payloads that we're working with the UK MOD and DSTL, that's the whole goal, is to be able to demonstrate our allied interoperability with that data sharing across our partners in this, as you mentioned, incredibly dynamic and quite frankly dangerous space environment that we're dealing with today.
So you definitely see that this type of partnership is something that will be valued going forward, and more such missions will likely be accomplished in the future.
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime. Who knows what tomorrow looks like, right? But again, anytime I can provide unique solutions, any other kind of launch solutions to my customer set, that's attractive to them. So yeah, we certainly hope to. Yep. This has been the Cornwall community here, the Cornwall Spaceport, the Newquay community have just been absolutely fantastic. We were in a taxi the last time we were down here, and they were like, "Oh, are you out here for the launch? That's so exciting!" The community is just really embracing, and it's fun to be a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially being a historical first here, I mean, it really means something to be part of it. So it is, you can feel that excitement, totally. Whether it's in the taxi cab or at the launch site. Yeah. And then finally, the other major element of the partnership that often gets discussed is between government and commercial industry. How is the ability to leverage commercial industry in particular, and in order to tap into new capabilities, change the way that you and your colleagues work and think about missions?
Well, and it enables us to really unlock the innovation. That we are all about advancing technology and innovating. Nobody does that better, more efficiently, quicker than the commercial environment. So anytime that we on the government side are able to put constructs in place, like the contract that we used to acquire this particular launch service, that really harnesses the energy and the power that's in that commercial industry, so we can work together better and ultimately advance our U.S. and allied capabilities.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, of course, on the commercial side. But I mean, and we likewise appreciate the partnerships with government entities that are also encouraging and supporting new technologies to come to the market. So it definitely is, it's a symbiotic relationship that I think fosters and supports both sides. So Colonel Davis, it's really been a pleasure having you here today, and we thank you for coming down to Cornwall. Do you have any final thoughts or words you'd like to say as we get ready for the launch?
No, again, thank you. Thanks to Mel, who's been the host most of today on this, her and her team, and then the Virgin Orbit and Virgin Orbit National Systems teams have just been fantastic to partner with on this particular mission. And I personally have been really proud to just play a small role in it. So thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, back to you guys.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see from the data that we're just showing on our graphical user interface, all of our levels are still nominal. We're watching, as I had mentioned earlier, we're watching that payload adapt to temperature, but that is still doing totally fine for this phase of the flight. For those folks that have been watching our 3D map, which we'll bring up now, you'll notice that we did fly just south of the county of Cork in Ireland. We've taken our left-hand turn, and now we're in our racetrack that I had mentioned earlier. So we'll be moving into our coal pass in just a moment. We are still on track for our previously advertised drop time. So yeah, stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. You already heard about the Prometheus payload that is one of our payloads that we're taking to space today. I want to tell you a little bit more about a few more of the ride shares that we have on board. The first one there is the IOD-3 Amber, or commonly known as the IOD, which is developed by the Satellite Applications Catapult and Horizon Technologies and is built by AAC Clyde Space, all based in the United Kingdom. IOD-3 is expected to be the first of more than 20 Amber satellites to provide space-based maritime domain awareness data to users. Another one is CIRC, or the Coordinated Ionospheric Reconstruction CubeSat Experiment, and it's a part of a joint mission between the UK's Defence Science and Technology Laboratory and the US Naval Research Laboratory. Third one there is Dover, which is developed by the RHEA Group of Belgium, and it's the company's first satellite in its 30-year history. We're very proud to be carrying her on board today, and is being co-funded through the European Space Agency's navigation program and built by Open Cosmos of the United Kingdom. Dover is a small sat that was created as a pathfinder for resilient global navigation satellite systems. We're going to bring up the GUI again. Just a couple of notes from the MCC. Our launch commit criteria for terminal count has been given the all clear. The terminal count is the portion when the rocket goes into an autonomous mode. We did have some questions on the YouTube stream that I want to address. Some folks saying this is actually the second launch after Wallace and Gromit went to the moon for cheese. Thank you very much for that. And also the use of Fahrenheit versus Celsius. Typically in aerospace world, we use imperial units over metric units. I think that's all I got for the moment. Like I said, we're moving into the cold pass, and things are about to get very exciting. So please stay with us.
The moment we've all been waiting for is about to come. But before that, we want to talk a little bit about the mission name, Start Me Up, which is named after the iconic British rock band's record, Start Me Up, that was released by Virgin Records in 1981. I can't think of a better name for the mission, for a starting up launch out of the UK. But let's hear a little bit more from a familiar face, Sir Richard Branson.
Start Me Up. I can't think of a more perfect name for Virgin Orbit's first launch from Spaceport Cornwall than the UK's first launch and the start of an important and exciting new capability. I first heard the Rolling Stones when I was at school, and their songs have been in my head ever since. As a nervous teenager, armed with a tape recorder bigger than me, I interviewed Mick Jagger for Student magazine. And years later, we tried to sign the band, and years after that, we finally managed to bring the Stones to Virgin Records, and they helped make us the biggest independent record label in the world. I remember hearing Keith Richards kick off Start Me Up when we promoted the Stones comeback tour in 2012. A decade on, they're still going strong, and I've loved spending time with them over the years, even if Ronnie Wood beats me at poker and pool. One of the most wonderful parts of Virgin Orbit's missions has been the opportunity to bring the Virgin family together, not least by honouring a Virgin Records artist with each launch. And this should be the most thrilling one yet. Congratulations and good luck to all involved in this launch in Cornwall, the UK and worldwide. Like the song says, once we start it up, we will never stop.
Welcome back. Just a quick update from the MCC. As you can see on the screen right now, we have made it through our cold pass, and we're now working through the hot pass. The counter on the left-hand side is a little bit of a misnomer because it's really drop-ready time. And I also did want to mention, you probably saw a quick camera feed that we had where the screen looked black. That's actually nominal because that was a live camera feed from the camera that's actually on the rocket underneath the payload fairing. You can see now this is an aft camera view from the drop. So we have, it looks to be a successful ignition of the stage 1 engine as we make our way to space. Like I had said before, a lot happens very quickly after drop. You can see here that we're actually getting towards the end of our stage 1 burn. Everything is nominal so far. We've had our pitch up on the bottom, on the burn time
Stage 1
that you
throttle
can
down,
see
commanded.
on the graphical user interface if you do have that one up. We have made it through max Q alpha, which is one of the most stressful physical moments for the rocket, very comfortably through max Q. And then also through our maximum heat, aerodynamic heat heating. We have made it through MECO, our main engine cutoff. That is our Newton 3 engine shutdown, is reported as nominal. And if we can go back to our aft camera.
Fairing brake wire is broken.
We have stage separation. You may see dropouts in the data during the flight here. That is expected as we're switching between the different ground stations that are picking up the signal from the rocket.
Switching data source to the Nuki.
Now, as you can see, the trajectory that's being shown on the screen is no longer of Cosmic Girl because she is on her way back to Spaceport Cornwall in the UK. The trajectory is now tracking Launcher 1 as she makes her way down the Atlantic Ocean towards the Canary Islands.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal.
Stage 2 trajectory nominal. That means our flight path is as expected, being picked up by those ground stations. We're probably almost coming up on halfway through our stage 2 burn number 1. On the GUI here, you can see in the center there, obviously the cool flame coming out the left-hand side, but you can see the fuel and the oxygen leaving the stage as it goes through the engine. Another really neat thing to see is the gimbal over on the left-hand side. The blue square with the dot in the middle shows you the position of the engine as it is steering stage 1.
Stage 2 burn nominal.
Altitude now is looking at around about 600,000 feet. Approximately 3 miles per second. Bus voltages for the batteries are nominal. You may have noticed that we had a lower voltage while we were in captive carry.
Switching data source to
and
Madrid.
That's because the power was being provided by Cosmic Girl at that point before we switched over to the rocket's internal batteries. Stage 2 burn is a little longer than the Stage 1 burn, so this might take a little while for us to get to second engine cutoff 1. As I said earlier, there are points of the flight where we don't have the telemetry coming from the rocket because we are out of view of the ground stations. Our flight software folks have implemented a store and forward on our rocket, which means that when we are out of view of the ground stations, we are storing that data so that the next time we do come in view of a ground station, we can download it and
confirm
and
target lock from Madrid. Data source switch to Madrid.
Yeah. Our Madrid ground station has locked on to our rocket and is streaming the data now.
Confirm signal from Maspalomas, switching telemetry source to Maspalomas. Newton 4 shutdown initiated.
You just heard the call for Newton 4 shutdown. Newton 4 is our stage 2 engine. So that is the completion of the first burn of our second stage. You can see along the bottom of the screen right now, our flight timeline has been updated to show the Cosmic Girl is returning, obviously, and then Launcher 1, which takes up the majority of the flight timeline there, is at our S2 cutoff, or our second stage engine cutoff. Like I said, once we get to drop, a lot of stuff happens very, very quickly. What you might have seen is initially after the drop, around about 5 seconds or so after the drop, because we need to make sure that our aircraft is safe and out of the way. we fire what we call our propellant settling thrusters, or our PSTs, and they're solid rocket boosters that are on the back of Launcher 1, and they give the rocket a little push forward to settle our propellants for stage 1. And then we have that main engine start, or MES, for S1. And then you saw over, I think it was about 3 minutes or so, our stage 1 burn, which, as I had said before, does most of the heavy lifting, and our main engine cutoff. Separated from stage 2, and stage 2 has to do the work for the rest of the journey. We start our second stage engine, which is the burn that just happened, and during that burn, we separate our fairings. And what that does, it opens up the pointy end of the rocket, essentially, through ordnance firing. That opens up that section and exposes the payloads. We continue to fly under power on our second stage during that first burn, and then we'll have that cut off. And you can see the graphic on the screen right now. We again get to the coast, which is the phase that we're in right now. And we do a maneuver. We execute a maneuver called the barbecue roll. So essentially we are rifling through the atmosphere. And what this does is it avoids one side of the stage from getting too hot and the other from getting too cold. Our rocket is covered in a spray-on foam insulator, but this is a very standard maneuver procedure that most rocket companies execute. Once we've finished our coast, we will do a second engine start, so SES2. So we restart our second stage engine to lift us a little more, and then we'll cut off that engine, and after that will be our payload separation. And that's when we can start popping champagne corks and dancing. After payload separation, we do have a couple of extra things that we want to do here during this mission, and we will do a maneuver called the CCAM, or the Contamination and Collision Avoidance Maneuver, and then we will actually fire our second stage for a third time, so you'll hear calls for SES, or Second Engine Start 3, and then SECO, or Second Engine Cutoff 3. Once that's complete, we go into a phase that we call safing, and then the mission is complete. You can see images on screen right now from our Mission Control Center over in Cornwall, the UK. Take a moment to say how much we appreciate the folks that came out to Cornwall this evening to watch our launch. It is a historic day, obviously, for the United Kingdom, but for Eastern Europe as well. And we very much appreciate you all being here today, including those folks that have joined us on the live stream through YouTube. Thank you for being here and being part of this journey with us.
control, we're going to change the traffic light back to green.
SMA concurs changing traffic light to green.
LD to SMA on control, do you copy?
SMA controls on copy, go ahead.
Have you let the tower know that hazardous operations have ended?
No, I have not and I cannot, but I can coordinate with range 1 on FA in it.
Copy. Also, did you change the traffic light?
No, I did not.
Sorry, we're going to green.
Is it green now? Let me pull up the...
It's okay, LC is working it.
Okay, copy. SMA
Welcome back, everyone. This is, of course, the least interesting part of the flight. We are in S2 coast, so there's not a lot happening, and you're not probably hearing a lot of audio come from the Mission Control Center. But I did want to let you know that Cosmic Girl is only minutes away from landing. That is our primary mission, is safety here at Virgin Orbit, and we want to ensure that our flight crew and all the folks on the ground are ultimately safe at all phases of our mission. So yeah, just a quick update here from the MCC. We'll be back with more in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. It appears that Launcher 1 has suffered an anomaly which will prevent us from making orbit for this mission. We are looking at the information and data that we have gotten, and we'll be back with you in a moment with more. Welcome back as we see Cosmic Girl touching down back to UK Spaceport Cornwall. She did a magnificent job today and was fully successful in her portion of the mission. As I had said earlier, Virgin Orbit's number one priority is the safety of our flight crew and the folks on the ground as well. So we can see that she has come home safely. Welcome back, and thanks for sticking with us for this long, everyone. We have experienced an anomaly, and we are gathering more information. I did want to take this opportunity to thank our customers, our Virgin Orbit team, VONS, UK Spaceport Cornwall, of course, and our BSL interpreters over in the UK. We're going to be ending our live stream at this point, but please be sure to check out our other channels, our social media channels, for more information as soon as it's available.